What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the tower. So today I'm going to be going over a few ways to counter all of the fleets. This might be a shorter video, we'll just have to see. I'll just show you a few examples in tier 21. And I also did a progress update with Crowbar Zero, and that's on his channel, and I'll link that in the description. So yeah, let's get into it. So starting off with the Saboteur, I would say most of the time this is the least threatening of the fleets, because it's going to depend a lot on which ultimate weapon it actually disables. The main one being Chrono Field, that's usually going to be the worst case. But sometimes they can be hard to kill. So they only actually disable an ultimate weapon if they're on your tower. So if you have your wall up, they can't actually disable anything, which gives you a lot of time to kill them, until your wall breaks, of course. But they don't do any damage, so another enemy would have to break your wall. Another thing is they don't actually take wall thorns damage. That does make it harder to kill them when they're on your wall, but they do take regular tower thorns damage. So that kind of makes it interesting. There's really not much you can specifically do to counter them, besides just trying to have your wall up as much as possible. That's pretty much the only thing. And besides that, it's pretty much just hoping they don't disable an important ultimate weapon. Let's say Chrono Field's the main one. Spotlight can also be pretty bad. So one other thing is, if they do miss their first hit on you, they do actually deal 0 damage, but they can still technically hit you just to take thorns damage. But if they do actually miss that with either the landmine stun mastery or harmony conductor, they won't actually disable an ultimate weapon, which is really interesting. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to show you that, but I can try. I'll just play this and see if I get a miss. Okay, so this one actually didn't miss on my wall. So I guess either the tower or the wall, either one. But if the first hit is a miss on anything, then it actually doesn't disable anything. As you can see here, nothing's disabled while it's on my tower. So I guess that's a pretty good counter as well. Just either the landmine stun mastery or harmony conductor, because both of those together gives you a pretty good chance to actually get a miss. But yeah, besides that, you pretty much just need damage to kill it. So moving on to commanders. So sometimes these will be the biggest threat, and then sometimes it'll be overcharge. It kind of depends on what build you're running. So if you're running a hybrid build and tanking the overcharge with the wall, then commanders are probably going to be the biggest issue. So pretty much they just go around where this one is and they start pulsing. Let me see if I can show you that. Yeah, as you can see there was a pulse, and that gives the enemies a buff. You can kind of see it on them, the little glowing effect they have. So that buffs any enemies in the radius. In the encyclopedia, it says it just buffs their health, but it actually does a lot more than that. It does give them a pretty big health buff, but it does a lot of other things. They also get, it seems like a speed buff, potentially a resistance to knockback. And sometimes it seems like the enemies just kind of teleport, on your tower. I usually don't see that until the commander has been alive for a while. So I'm not sure if the ability stacks at all, but the ability is really strong. If a commander's alive for too long, you're probably just going to die eventually, even if you do kill the commander, because all the enemies actually keep the buff until they die. So if you can't kill them, then they'll just kill you pretty much. But yeah, commanders are really scary. Luckily, as you can see here, Black Hole does still affect enemies that would regularly go in Black Hole, even if they do have the effect. So I would say Black Hole is probably the main counter to the commander. Same with the Stun Bot. Stun Bot also stuns enemies still that would regularly be stunned. Those together can allow you to kind of kill all the enemies, but you do eventually have to kill the commander itself. One issue is that it can also buff elites. Vampires are pretty strong with the buff. They can get really close to you really fast. I've seen Rays get the buff as well, and those can also be pretty deadly. Any ultimate enemies as well are pretty deadly with the buff, since they can avoid Black Hole altogether. As you can see here, this Fast has the Fast ultimate, and it's not in the Black Hole either. It's just getting really close to me. And bosses can't actually get the buff, which is interesting. There's also a chance that a super high range can be helpful sometimes. As you can see here, I'm at 211 meters, and the radius of the commanders is really small. So if you do already run a large range build, then the commanders might not be as much of a problem. But that is a potential counter. I haven't really tested it myself. I don't think it's as effective as something like Black Hole. Something else to think about for both commanders and overcharge is the fact that they stop really far away. So if you use Poison Swamp for damage or stuns, then you might actually want to run a lower range, especially for overcharges. Just so you can get the stuns and poison them, but also so you can get more bounce shots, more bounce shot coverage, just so you can try to kill them faster. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the commanders. The buff is really overpowered though. If too many enemies have it and you can't kill them fast enough, then you'll probably die pretty soon, within a couple waves. I think the ability needs to get nerfed. It's a little bit too good. And lastly, we have the Overcharge. So these enemies are extremely strong, especially if you're a glass cannon build, since they actually stop outside your range and they kind of shoot you like a regular ranged enemy. but you can't knock them back at all, and then they're half immune to most stuns, chrono field, and stuff like that. But the main thing with them is that they deal really low damage compared to the actual wave damage. So as you can see, most of the enemies have around 7.7 big Q, while the Overcharge is only at 118 trillion. This is around 65,000 times lower. So yeah, they're kind of meant to be countered with EHP. The problem is it's kind of hard to get enough in the higher tiers for like milestones to actually be able to use EHP to counter them. But I can quickly show you here. One's right here, and it's just slowly chipping down my wall. I have a lot of EHP things to help make it deal less damage. Defense percent. There's also Flamebot with the new damage reduction levels. This is really good for them. There's also the chrono field reduction, which just reduces damage as well. So there's a lot of things that stack up to make them deal less damage. So they also do deal double damage every hit, but that's not quite as strong as it sounds, because the damage doubling is actually additive instead of multiplicative. So if it multiplied, it would be, the first hit was 150 trillion, then it would go to 300, and then 600, and then 1.2 quadrillion. But since it's additive, it actually scales a lot slower than that. So every time it just adds the base damage onto the last hit. So it starts at 150 trillion, then goes to 300, then 450, then 600, and then 750, and so on. So it doesn't actually scale as fast as you might think. As long as you have enough EHP to tank a lot of hits, then they shouldn't be a problem. The only issue I have with this is that they still will take your energy shields away if your wall is broken. So it kind of leaves you vulnerable to other enemies. So they'll take all your shields away, and then they'll just start working on your regular tower health, which by itself isn't too bad, but like I said, any other enemies can kill you still. So I think kind of going the wall EHP route is a lot better for Overcharge. You don't have to invest into regen, but if you do already have the stuff for like a regen type build, like with Sharp Fortitude, then that can be pretty good still. But for me, even just the wall rebuilding, the regular health is enough, even in tournaments for me. So you really don't need too much EHP for tournaments, but like I said, it's going to be a different case, kind of depending on what regular tier you're running. But yeah, besides EHP, there's really not many ways to counter it. Similar to the Commander, it sits outside your tower range, so kind of the same things I said there, just like using a lower range to get more coverage on stuff, just to try and kill them faster or stun them more. But for glass cannon builds, they're super deadly since they can just take all your shields away very quickly. And they don't really take that much thorns damage either, so you actually have to kill them with your tower damage. You can also use like negative mass projector and then primordial collapse for the damage reductions if you do need more EHP. Those also help, but they're not completely necessary for Legends tournaments. Typically all I've needed is just some investment in the workshop enhancements and then a few cards. I just have the health regen and defense cards on. But I do have pretty good EHP labs, so that could be different for other people. But yeah, not much more to say about them. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, let me know if you've been liking the shorter videos. I'll probably make a YouTube community post about that and ask what you guys think. It would be like shorter videos similar to the length of this, but more frequent uploads. Or the longer videos, like 15 to 20 minutes, where there will be less frequent uploads. If you have any other questions about the fleets or anything like that, you can leave them in the comments. I'll try to get back to you. And yeah, see ya.